Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching my channel, I Hate Rock Music. And today I'm going to do a video on Johnny Winter and definitely a lot more high profile than a lot of bands I cover. But the fact that they were a rock band that existed for one studio album and one live album uh, definitely warrants my attention. And I have to say, the Johnny Winter and studio album for me is a quintessential classic American rock band of just epic proportions. They're just a perfect American band, American rock. There's a couple tunes on there that actually kind of remind me of something the Allman Brothers would do, another quintessential great American rock band. And the fact that Johnny Winter did two blues records before this, the first one was pretty much straightforward blues and everything that it encompasses, credible record, especially for the year 1960, 69, but 1970 he released Second Winter and definitely was definitely more of a progressive blues rock album. He was definitely expanding his vision and was in competition with bands like the Jimi Hendrix Experience and Cream. The fact that it was so much blues, kind of obscures that fact sometimes, but it was basically a power trio. An incredible record. And for some reason, Johnny Winter decided after doing that album in that same year, he decided to start just a regular rock band with songs and great guitar work, but not extended solos or anything else. And interesting that he chose a band like the McCoys. Of course, the McCoys had a giant hit with "Hang On, Sloopy," 1965, when Rick Derringer was barely into his teens, and then they developed into a more expansive band. And a lot of the material is somewhat generic, but there's a couple of great blues tunes they do on their last album in 1969, and I'll include those below in the links to show exactly what Johnny Winter heard when he decided to just take the entire band of the McCoys and have them be his band. And the band, of course, is Rick Derringer on guitar, Randy Joe Hobbs on bass, Randy Zerringer on drums, and Johnny Winter. And quite a turnaround for Johnny to do this. Kind of pissed off a lot of blues purists, but they should have been ready, especially after Second Winter, because it was definitely moving in a rock direction with some experimental aspects to it. And the album is self-produced, which is interesting. It has a nice production for me, and everything's pretty clear on it. You can hear the amazing dual guitar work. To have two guitars of that caliber in one band is one of the things that made them special, of course. And by the time you get to the Johnny Winter and live album, you really get to see them in all their full glory, and it's just incredible. As I said a million times already, they are just one of the great American rock bands. And the album, the fact that it is a more restrained rock album with a lot of great songs, and the fact that they pull it off. They have the sense to kind of rein everything in and just make a batch of really good songs. And it opens up with "Guess I'll Go Away," and Johnny Winter wrote it, and obviously he's completely capable of writing a just straightforward killer rock song, and "Guess I'll Go Away" is it. And thankfully, we've got a bunch of live material by Johnny Winter and now, and we get to hear versions of that song live, because on the original Johnny Winter and live album, there's not much original material from the album, and they do a lot of covers, which is fine. But you go through the record, and "Ain't That a Kindness" is just wonderful. It's just so classic rock. That's one of the ones that makes me think of the Allman Brothers. And then the classic "Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo," which everyone knows that Rick Derringer wrote. I prefer the Johnny Winter version, of course. And a beautiful song called "Am I Here," written by the drummer. And "Look Up" is excellent, written by Rick Derringer. And Johnny Winter wrote another classic blues-influenced rock song called "Prodigal Son." So Rick Derringer really added a lot. He definitely was better at writing for Johnny Winter and than he was for the McCoys, as far as I'm concerned. because he wrote Funky Music, On the Limb, Look Up, and Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. All great songs, particularly in the hands of this band. And they also did a cover of Stevie Winwood's No Time to Live, which is so amazing to me because, of course, we got used to Johnny Winter's blues howls and his raspy voice. And to hear him sing a song like No Time to Live so beautifully, it's incredibly moving, a great version. I'm really glad they thought to do that song. It's just so a consummate record. It just really couldn't be any better, and one of the great debut albums of a rock band ever. And of course, halfway through the band's existence, Randy Zeringer on drums left the band, and Bobby Caldwell, the amazing Bobby Caldwell, later went on to Captain Beyond and Armageddon, two notable bands of the early 70s for sure. But Bobby Caldwell added a whole new dimension to how the band sounds live. Certainly, the Johnny Winter and Live album, the official one, has him on it. And nothing against Randy Zeringer, but Bobby Caldwell is a drummer's drummer and truly incredible. And fortunately, we have a lot of bootlegs out there. There's actually a little bit of video footage, and then there's a show from Stockholm. There's a show from the UK. The Bath. There's another one from the Bath Festival. So there's a whole plethora of great live material out there by Johnny Winter, and after all those many years, even Columbia released a Johnny Winter and live at the Fillmore record, and it's just great to have all this material. It's really a shame that they didn't stay together and make another record, because it would have been even better to think of a Johnny Winter album in 1971 with all the writers they have in that band and their incredible dual guitar work. It really is a wet dream for me. And then the other nice thing about having all the bootlegs is we get to hear Johnny Winter and play a lot of tunes that weren't on the album and also weren't on the official live record. So they ended up doing songs that Johnny Winter did previously on his own. But Highway 61 revisited, Rollin' and Tumblin', Talk to Your Daughter, Black Cat Bone, 5 Long Years, and Eyesight to the Blind. And so I kind of dream about a second album where they might have done studio versions of some of these blues classics and songs that Johnny Winter had been doing for years before Johnny Winter and formed. But I go back to my original point. I love all the Johnny Winter's work. It's kind of interesting that he went from blues to rock and then back to blues again. But as far as quintessential American rock bands like the Byrds or the Allman Brothers, Johnny Winter and is definitely one of the giants. Just pure, great, truly American rock and roll. And I love that record, and I love the fact that it shows that Johnny Winter was very, very comfortable in a restrained rock format and rose to the occasion with beautiful vocals, wonderful guitar work, which we expect from him, and a plethora of great songs. So Johnny Winter and I practically don't need to put any links because anybody that's familiar with Johnny Winter is familiar with that album. But I will put links because there's a couple of great live shows. There's a great live video, some bootleg material, and great stuff. So if you're a Johnny Winter fan or a Johnny Winter and fan, and you haven't combed YouTube and found all the goodies, you'll find them all right here below this video. I make it easy. And I love the fact that I can do these videos for myself and then have all the great YouTube stuff that's available at my fingertips. Johnny Winter and I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.